The economics perspective of government intervention is to correct market failures. Efficient and competitive market has rational participants who make rational decisions based on comprehensive knowledge and information. The rational actors maximize their utilities. For example, firms maximize their profit. A comprehensive market involves a large number of rational suppliers and a large number of rational consumers. In a competitive market, Pareto efficiency is reached when no more exchange can be made to make one better off without making others worse off. Market equilibrium is a point when Pareto efficiency is reached and the supply meets the demand. When functioning perfectly, market is the most efficient way of allocating resources. However, market frequently fails due to reasons such as public good, externalities, imperfect information, and a natural monopoly. We observe these market failures when addressing energy problems. First is public good. Public good is very different from private good, which we are very familiar with. The consumption of private good is rivalrous, and the ownership of private good is excludable. On the other side, public good is non-rivalrous in terms of consumption, and the ownership of public good is not excludable. The provision of public good cannot rely on the private sector because the ownership is not excludable. There can be free riders who enjoy the service but not pay the cost. At this point, we will have to rely on the government, and we need government intervention to mandate the provision of public good. Examples for public good include national defense, lighthouse, information, clean air, clean water, etc. There can also be good that is open access. The consumption of open access good is rivalrous, but the ownership is not excludable. Examples for open access good can be the global atmosphere. Nobody owns the global atmosphere, but the pollution to the global atmosphere has to be monitored and regulated through intergovernmental collaboration. Externality is a second type of market failure. An externality exists when any valued impact results from any action that affects someone who do not fully consent or participate. Externality require two conditions. First condition is that the transaction and exchange will influence somebody else who do not participate in the transaction. A second condition is that people who are affected by the transaction are not fully compensated by the damages, or they do not pay the full cost by enjoying the benefit. Externality can be positive or negative. Negative externalities include the consumption of fossil fuel that can cause pollutions. Positive externality examples are like vaccination. This is the case for fossil fuel consumption. When the supply meets with the marginal or private cost, that's the market equilibrium decides the market price for fossil fuel and the quantity of consuming fossil fuel. However, the marginal private cost does not include the social damages it has, such as air pollution and water pollution. So the actual marginal social cost curve is actually higher than the marginal private cost curve. The social optimal level is the point when demand meets with the marginal social cost, and that actually indicates a lower level of consumption than the market quantity and a higher level of price than the market price for fossil fuel consumption. This is a point when we need government intervention to change the price signal so that we can reduce the consumption of fossil fuel to a social optimal level. In the case of renewable energy, consumption of renewable energy actually has positive externalities by avoiding air pollutions and avoiding greenhouse gas emissions. So the marginal social benefit curve is higher than the marginal private benefit curve, and the social optimal output is decided when the supply equals to the marginal social benefit. That actually indicate a higher level of consumption for renewable energy and at the same time a higher price for renewable energy. Again, this is a case when we need public policy to subsidize renewable energy or to mandate a higher level of quantity for consuming renewable energy. A third type of market failure is information asymmetry. There's no perfect information or 100% comprehensive knowledge about technologies and product. The process of searching for information indicates high transaction costs for market transactions and exchange. Problem can be caused when information is distributed asymmetrically between sellers and buyers. For example, sellers of second-hand cars know better about the quality of the car, but buyers know less about the quality. This is a problem when sellers have higher market power and they can manipulate the market to sell more lower quality cars. And that's the point when we need regulations and public policy to regulate this type of market. For example, the producers of biofuel know better about the quality of their biofuel. That's a point we need government agencies to monitor their production process to make sure that their production of biofuel actually follows the technology requirement to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. A fourth type of market failure is natural monopoly. A natural monopoly is a single supplier in the market which has the most efficient way of producing a certain type of good. For example, the transmission grid is a natural monopoly, and the second set of transmission and distribution lines can be redundant and cost us money. Natural monopoly has a lot of market power to set the market price at a higher level, at the same time reduce the quantity of production. We need government intervention to regulate the behavior of natural monopolies to protect the consumers. Overall, the rationale for public policy is to correct market failures. There are other rationales for making public policy, such as distributional purposes and redistributional purposes for social welfare. You can read more about the rationales for public policy, Weimer and Wanning textbook on policy analysis, chapter 5 and chapter 6.